That's, I think, it. Oh, and of course, the one thing we should have mentioned with Syria, but it also bears on Egypt, Al Jazeera has now launched their Al Jazeera for America. Now, you notice the cable television here, the MHZ network of Gold Bay, Virginia, in the recent past would give you Al Jazeera International Edition. All British, all hate the U.S. for all the wrong reasons. So a bunch of British anti-American venomous characters. Now we've got a bunch of CNN and NBC retreads as Al Jazeera for the United States. And I'm wondering, are we going to get Qaradawi? Aren't they going to give Qaradawi a program? Here's what you do. You take Qaradawi, you dress him up with some suspenders so he looks like Larry King, and you give Qaradawi an hour once a week. Why not? And he can come out there and say, jihad against Syria, jihad against Egypt. He can say that the natural tendency of Islam is to ally with NATO, which he has said, and he's probably got a few jihads against the United States still hanging. I somehow don't think that Al Jazeera is going to put their man Qaradawi on the U.S. version, but that's the one they have. He's the biggest personality. He's the super Larry King of their Arabic language version. And again, he's got jihads out against Syria, and now he's got a jihad against Egypt. Isn't that great? So if you're an Egyptian, I think you probably get pretty resentful of this. Now, let's say a few things about the various whistleblowers. Bradley Manning, I think, is a victim. I think he has been betrayed by Assange and the Assange network. I would regard that guy, Adrian Lamo, as a part of the Assange network. When Bradley Manning, whatever his confusions were, came forward and said he wanted to give these secrets, he was assured that his name would remain a secret, and Lamo of the WikiLeaks organization betrayed him. That's why he is where he is. Back in a minute. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Bradley Manning is a victim, I would say, of Assange and the WikiLeaks network. This Adrian Lamo was a fundraiser and contributor to WikiLeaks. And I think whatever we can say about Manning, he must have thought that Lamo was somehow a part of the operation, WikiLeaks, and that the guarantee of anonymity would extend to him as well. And then Lamo turned around and betrayed him to the U.S. authorities. So I think this is a tragic case. And obviously the years of solitary confinement and other cruel and unusual punishments are very bad precedent. So this victim should be given his freedom. Now, here's the problem. We have this guy, John Young of Cryptome, right? Cryptome, a group which is very skeptical about Assange and WikiLeaks because they know them so well, right? John Young was the mentor of WikiLeaks, of Assange. John Young has given an interview to the Boiling Frogs over there, and essentially confirms everything I've said about it, although he doesn't say limited hangout for some reason. He says they reveal a little bit, but they want to cover up most of the rest. Well, that's what a limited hangout is, and he says the operation is orchestrated. However, his approach, technically correct, lacks a polemical edge. However, I would now, based on Young and other interesting things that we've seen, I would now propose some revised criteria on the limited hangout issue. And it would go like this, right? Before, and if those of you who have followed this have heard it, right? The way you can tell a limited hangout is that the leaker becomes an instant media darling, Ellsberg, Assange, that nothing new is contained in the revelations. Young also confirms that nothing new was in there compared to what we knew in the late 1990s. In other words, compared to what we knew when the European Union held the Echelon investigations, nothing is new. All that's new is, and this is Madsen, essentially saying PRISM and this X keystroke and so forth. Those are the couple of code names that you might not have known. And, of course, that the main covert operations of the age, the Kennedy assassination, the so-called Arab Spring, 9/11, there's nothing about any of the big stuff, right? It's all trivial. It's all sanitized. And that they're preparing other covert operations. I would just add to this one more. The chosen vehicle, the Ellsberg, the Assange, the Snowden, becomes an instant media darling. And other whistleblowers who may be more authentic, who are seeking the attention of journalists, who are seeking to get published, are ignored. So you can have all kinds of shocking stuff published on some websites, but that's ignored until you get the great Snowden or the great Assange coming forward in close cooperation with consortia in each case of these press. The other thing, of course, that they point out that John Young wants you to remember is, as I've stressed here, of course, the documents are being withheld. Snowden gave a trove of documents to Greenwald, and Greenwald is hoarding them. That's his stock in trade now. So this is the Craven media. Sure, Craven. Greenwald is hoarding this stuff, and he can now dribble it out in a kind of soap opera situation now that his boyfriend was arrested by the British and held by the British, and of course that's bad. We don't want international travelers, God knows, to be harassed. So it's a limited hangout. These things have been around. It's important, I think, also to take a look at this woman, Laura Poitras, Poitras, and see what's going on there. Also out of this is the suggestion that some attacks attributed to China that hit the U.S. may be NSA attacks that are bounced off China, right, that involve taking control of a computer in China and then coming back, a spoof, as it might be called. Okay, so there's all that. Now, there is this council of advisors. Obama has a council of advisors, people that are going to they're going to supervise the amount of snooping that goes on. And let's see if we can find this array. The most interesting is Cass Sunstein. Cass Sunstein, the master of cognitive infiltration, the husband of Samantha Power, who is leading the charge for war at the United Nations. Cass Sunstein is going to be there. Michael Morell of the CIA is also going to be on this commish. So essentially the foxes and worse are guarding the chicken coop. Let's see who we have. Michael Morell, who has been acting head of the CIA at different times. One-time economic policy advisor Peter Swire. Obama's former regulatory czar or information czar, Cass Sunstein, and Richard Clarke. This is Richard A. Clarke. This is the guy who walked into the White House on the morning of 9/11 and started saying Al-Qaeda, 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 bin Laden, bin Laden, bin Laden, on the basis of absolutely nothing. Clarke is the guy who ran the U.S. government on 9/11. Read all about it in 9/11 Synthetic Terror Made in USA. It was his leaking to CBS News and CNN that got the networks going with Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda, bin Laden, bin Laden. So in many ways, Clarke is the architect of the 9/11 myth. But don't tell that to some stupid leftist, because all they remember is that he got to the hearings on Capitol Hill and he had some bad things to say about Bush. So that is going on. Now, cognitive infiltration. That's what we can expect from Cass Sunstein. And remember that cognitive infiltration goes on and on. 9/11 Truth Movement largely destroyed by cognitive infiltration. But now my thesis is that these whistleblowers and their ilk this is cognitive infiltration. In other words, you've got a mass of people who have become disaffected with Obama. And the question now is, where will they go? They're unlikely to go to the Republican Party. Some of them, the more degraded ones, the ones with greater hebetude, we might say, they might incline towards Rand Paul or something like this. But this, I think, is a smaller group. These people are up for grabs, and the point is, how can you neutralize them? How can you stupefy them with mind control, MK, operations? That's what this is. So, Psy-War. And that is offering them Snowden and indeed Bradley Manning as ego identifications or objects of cathexis. They want to invade your psyche, and they want to convince you that these people should be your heroes. Assange is already a disturbed personality. Manning, obviously, a deeply troubled personality. Ellsberg, obviously, a very fishy character in his own right. And therefore, I would urge you to realize they are trying to capture your imagination. They're trying to make you think that that's somehow the mode of political action. Of course, since you can't do it, you're not a government official, you don't have access to those secrets, that somehow you come out and be a cheerleader for them. All right, we've reached the end of our broadcast. I wanted to do the Gordon pessimism and the Harold Meyerson low-wage story. Let me just say one thing. If you're anywhere near the Washington, D.C. area, on Tuesday, September 24th, the anniversary of the arrival of the Russian fleet in New York City, save the date. Save the date here in Washington. In the evening of September 24th, Tuesday, we will have a suitable commemoration, discussion, and evening that will be very enlightening. Save the date. I'll tell you exactly where when we nail it down a little bit further. So this is Tarpley, and we'll be back next week on World Crisis Radio.